Sully, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Randy. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad, not doing too bad. It's a little cooler over here. The weather is kind of tapering off, so we're getting a little bit of a breeze, I guess, in a sense with the weather. How about you? How's the weather where you at?
It's hot.
It's hot.
It's straight
You
up
said that with emphasis.
hot. Yeah.
That's what's up, man. I feel like it's been a while since we have the opportunity to check in and stuff. So, like, yeah, tell me a little bit what's going on and how you been.
Yeah. So I can report that like things are great. Things are going really well. Work is great. My boss left. So we're currently looking for a new boss. I think that's why things are just, but yeah, it's been really good. I've been getting coaching hours in, and that's probably what I want to focus on. I feel like this might be like coaching the coach session. I'm so as I've gotten more practice, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. Is it that I'm getting more comfortable that I want to go rogue? And I listen to a lot of Coach Muriel, so I want to be her. But then I realized that I'm a toddler in this, and so I can't. And then there's also the part where like the feeling that I get where I start to doubt myself, it's mostly with people that I know. So I feel like my previous relationship with him might be coming into the coaching session. And so I feel like then that messes with me. So my coaching sessions are going way longer than I need them to. So, like yesterday, I had a coaching session for a previous assistant principal of mine. It went an hour and 15 minutes. And then just don't feel like I got the aha. Um, so anyway, that's where like I'm struggling.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing all that. And, I just want to acknowledge I'm glad that you're doing great. I know that work stuff was definitely a heavy load for a long time, and that particular individual was creating a lot of tension just in space for you. So I'm glad that that's all been able to clear out the cachet, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, and that you're crushing these coaching hours. What I heard you say was you want to really focus on the coaching hour piece. You're really looking at like at current in your coaching. What you're finding is that you aspire to coach, at this master level coach, and you name somebody I'm familiar with, that I probably need to write down and um, model as well. Um, but that there's an aspiration of how you want to show up a style that you think really works well, recognizing that you're a toddler in the game and allowing yourself to be in the process, but also recognizing that doubt's kind of showing up because what's happening is with folks that you know, or you have a prior relationship with in this coaching, through coaching, you are finding that your sessions are going really long. And it sounds like you're wanting to clean that up. And you also sound like there was an element of wandering in the most recent one, really long, and you felt like you didn't get to an aha for the client. Does that sound right?
Yeah, and I'm finding that it's almost like I'm waiting for the aha to be super obvious. And then because
Mm,
I may not get it, so then I start to panic, like I didn't ask the right question. So then I start to flounder. And then I start asking questions that I'm not even really connected to, which then elongates the conversation. And then I'm like, oh my God, how do I rein this in? Um, so yeah, so it's a lot of like the voices in my head while I'm coaching.
right. I can definitely relate to that. Um, so you'd mentioned the waiting, and it sounds like you're waiting and anticipating this aha and
Mhm.
anticipating it as something that's visible. So like a strong visual cue or body language cue. I'm curious, like in coaching in general, just as you're doing it, how do you hold these coaching relationships? Meaning that, like, even with these folks that you have these relationships with, are these multiple sessions, from jump, was it laid out as multiple sessions?
Mm. Yeah, so the way I've pitched my product, even if it's free, is discovery call and then 6 sessions. And I show them, like, we're going to be doing this. I think it's especially important if we have a relationship where, like,
Mhm.
I need them to know that I'm following a process and that I need to stick to that process. Like, it's more for my learning and my integrity, that, like, I want to
Mm.
do right by you and I want to stick to a process. I don't want to just chit chat like I would as a friend.
Gotcha. No, that's important. Um, oh, is that the dog? Oh, you all good. So you named that the relationships are important because you're in the process of practicing and learning, and that helps you kind of stay in that context. But it does sound like you've established that there's multiple sessions there. So I'm curious, where does the urgency, like, where are you? Like in that one you just mentioned, you had said there was one that went in at an hour and 15. Like,
Mm.
what session was that for you and that individual?
So that was session 3
Okay.
with us. So
Um,
we had discovery call, 2 sessions that were probably like one each month, and then went on a long break over the summer. So probably 2 months without connecting. And then this was our connection back.
got it. So there was a lot of time, even
Mhm.
though in the sequence there was a lot of time, so a lot of having to catch up, it seems.
Yes.
Um,
And he did call me for something specific. Like we didn't have it planned. He just texted me and said, "Hey, I could really use some coaching right now. This bomb just got dropped on me." So it was very, and I was like, "Cool. I love this shit. Like, I'm here."
sign me up.
Like, yeah. Like, and he even said, like, in the text, he's like, we could do coaching, or I just want to be like, I just need a thought partner. So of course, like, I was like, no, I need coaching. Um, and so I think yeah. So it was definitely a very specific thing that he was, reckoning with. And yeah, that's where we were.
Okay. I appreciate that context. That's helpful. I wanted to go back into the doubt because there's some feelings that were named, right? And I want to kind of see if we can call those into more specific, like how are those feelings showing up as habits? And, can we get to a place that you're able to unpack that and maybe identify a goal that can help you as you finish these particular coaching sessions with these individuals and maybe can taper down or walk alongside or whatever the goal is that you name with like your need for the aha and coaching, the person in the problem or within the frameworks.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned doubt. You had mentioned, some anxiety as it related to waiting for the aha, and then trying to like recognize it in the moment. And so I'm curious, where do you think where do you think that urgency or that doubt comes from?
I think maybe I'm a little bit paranoid about coaching the problem uh and not the person. So I feel like I'm missing out on cues early on. So like even right now that you just said, let's recognize the habits. Like that's not where my mind is focused at the beginning of the conversation. Like I think my listening is going more towards the problem. And so then I have to, like, come on, like jolt myself to, like, wait, what was the habit? What can I ask? And so then that's where the anxiety starts.
Mm,
Where I would say after the introduction, really, I mean, at the reflection, I noticed that, like, am I paraphrasing correctly? Did I miss something? Um, and then, yeah, I guess that's it. I just don't feel like I own this framework yet in a way where it's automatic.
gotcha. No, I definitely hear that and I can understand and empathize with that. And you named something very specific, right? Being paranoid around the problem and that kind of distracting you from listening and being present with the person. And I'm curious, can you tell me a little bit more about what you've learned about your particular coaching style and strengths at so far in like where you're at?
Um, I think the feedback that I've gotten before coaching and now with coaching, like the consistent thing I think is the empathy piece. And I have to say that empathy can be a good thing, but I've also had it be something that's been crippling in my leadership journey because as a principal, I over empathized with people and then I just kind of lost a lot of the structures and the systems that I needed to be leading because I was over empathetic with people. And so I lost sight of like, yeah. Um, so that's definitely I guess, some baggage that I'm bringing into this space. So to me, it's that fine line, like, how can I, as I'm listening and I'm actively listening, where am I crossing the line to be over empathetic? What's the right amount of empathy to be able to continue the process to get the client in a good space?
Thank you so much. So I heard you say two things. One thing was that you wasn't sure that you were owning the framework, so it was more automatic. Is
Mhm.
that correct? And then the second piece was how much empathy to give
Mhm.
during the coaching sessions.
Yeah.
During this coaching session, which one of the two would you want to work on?
Um, I think that the empathy piece is the one that's getting in the way. Like, I think if I process that, then I think I could approach the framework from a more technical standpoint. Because I think the empathy piece is the, again, the more emotional baggage, the self-doubt. I think that. So I'm gonna choose that.
Okay. Talk more about the empathy and the self-doubt.
Um, I think it goes hand in hand that okay, so like yesterday and I'm bringing this client up because it just happened last night, but this is the pattern that I'm seeing. So I'm listening to the client, I'm listening to their story, and especially if I know them or if they're in education, my biases, I can feel them creeping in, right? And so it's been, I think to Randy's question, my strength has been I can connect with the person, especially if they're in a place where they're hurting and they need somebody to listen to them. That's the positive feedback that I've gotten. That's the strength. But at what point does it I feel that because maybe I get lost in that empathy, I'm not sure where to pivot us back to the framework. To like, okay, so now what? Where it feels more like you just did right now. Like, okay, here are these two things. Which do you want? That's where I'm like, it's not firmed up in here. It's loose. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay, that does make sense.
Okay.
So let's talk through some strategies to make it less loose. Does that sound appropriate?
Yeah.
What do you think is your first strategy that you can utilize to make it less loose and you can get right down to the nitty gritty?
I almost feel like timing. Like if I've gone 20 minutes and I'm still listening to a reflection, like that might be too long. But that's where I don't know. I want to create time structures to be able to, as a guide. But that's not really how we've approached the work. So I don't know
Okay.
if
Now, is
page.
it okay to write that down? So create time structures.
Mhm.
So can I offer a suggestion?
Yeah, please.
Well, first I'm gonna ask a question. Do you re-watch your videos,
Mhm.
your coaching videos?
Yeah.
Okay. So doing the rewatching, is there a way that you could have time structures in, like look at your previous videos and see what things that you need to improve on and where,
Okay.
and try to work on that for the next video, the next session?
So like really get clear on what my habits are while I'm coaching.
All right. And have like a little cheat sheet near you. So
Yeah.
like, everyone has like the notebook, So maybe have that near you, like, okay, like I do a self-talk to myself. Okay, Canada. All right, I need to do this, this time. Last time I didn't do this.
Mhm.
So I'm a big sports person. Well, I think I am. I'm not sure if my husband thinks I am, but I consider myself one. And I know that basketball players and everybody watches their film, right?
Like
To
replays. Okay.
the replay so they know how to pivot for the next game or something that they may have misconstrued or whatever.
Mhm.
So I think maybe watching your film and
Mhm.
actually like taking notes to see things that you could improve on to, for yourself.
It's really funny you say that because that's part of my avoidance where I'm like, I don't want to see how what a train wreck that was. So
Some,
like I'll listen to it, I'm like, I'll just do the rubric and do it. But I'm not, I think, yeah, but I have to admit, like I have not been watching them to give myself feedback. Like it
but you'll
has,
get,
yeah,
but also say if watching it is a distraction, just listen to it while you're cleaning up or something.
yeah.
Because you can hear it and then just jot down notes too, right? So like I'm listening to myself, I'm not watching myself, and then like, all right, let me jot down notes. So it could feel like less intimidating.
Okay.
That sound like a strategy?
It does sound like a good strategy that I can do that.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you watch other people
Yeah.
as well. How do you think watching other people affect your confidence in what you're doing?
Well, it's great ramping up to like, oh, I listened to, this podcast and I'm gonna try that. And then I'll take my little notes. So it's very aspirational. But then when I do it, then without looking at my video, I just like beat myself up. I'm like, well, that fell short. Right. And so then that's where, but I think the piece that you've just helped me realize is I'm coming to these conclusions without really assessing my plays. Like I haven't, I'm just telling myself like, well, that sucked.
Hmm.
Instead of like really going in and saying, okay, if you think it sucked, what about it sucked? So that you can do
Hmm.
better next
Right. So that's that reflection piece. You talked about having empathy for the people that you coach. Do you have empathy for yourself?
time. Man, really? That's a good question. Oh, not right now. See, that was the aha. Do you see how you did that? That's awesome. That's a great question. I need to get better.
Okay. So, what do you need to get better at? So you
Uh,
need to get better. Tell me more.
I think it's more the grace that this is a process and that I am a learner. You can't just arrive and be a good coach. It's work. And that's where like I told my daughter the other day, I'm like, this is hard. Like this is a lot harder than I thought. Um, again, getting the conversation to move in a direction that's efficient and effective for the client, like it really is, like I'm humbled. And so I think that's the part that I need to take a step back and appreciate.
And I also want you to think about that's why basketball players and athletes have practice, right?
Yeah.
Because they have looked at their video, saw something, it's like, oh no, I didn't defend as hard there. I didn't do all my shots. So that's why they practice, practice, practice.
Yep. Well said, Dr. Canada.
Think it's also important to note that, you know, when they're watching the tape, they're also looking for what they did really well, and maybe how they had to pivot out of a situation to turn into a positive one. So you might also want to think about that when you're looking at your past videos. So over the course of this conversation, I have heard you go from being in a place where you were kind of feeling bad about your time management and your empathy, and then you had your moment where you kind of checked that assumption, and so now you have a new strategy or a couple new strategies and tools. How do you see yourself employing them? What is your next step?
Well, I think I need to like really dedicate time to looking at the videos in a much more not critical, what's the other word? Like oh my gosh, I'm blanking out on the word where you're giving not positive feedback, but critical feedback, I guess is maybe it is.
Are you thinking about the term constructive feedback?
Constructive, that's what yes, like more constructive feedback for myself. Because I think that's where I was more stuck in the critical feedback, which is why I was avoiding it. So I think I just need to get through that hump. I also do not believe that I have, because of that, it's gotten me in a habit of not reaching out to the resources that are available to me. And so like Mario, I know he's listening. I have not reached out to him to give me feedback or even just again be a thought partner in like my coaching videos. I have not done that once. And I think it's mostly the fear, the getting just, you know, like bad. Like, oh, I really suck at this. So I just need to get through that.
So I heard that you're going to take the step to rewatch some of your videos, and then you're going to have let's call Mario your accountability partner. Going to reach out to him after you have some insights, right? What do you think about also soliciting feedback from your coachees?
I can do that. I mean, it's been on my to-do list more as the process. But I have some that I've been with for, 5 sessions. So I feel comfortable reaching out. I do have to say, part of my hesitation is, again, this is where the over empathizing comes in, where it's not productive, is everyone is so busy. I don't want to ask them, right? Like I feel like they're doing me a favor. So here I am asking them. So that's been my hesitancy. But I think that I've built some trust with really good trust with some that I can reach out and ask them and commit to that.
Mhm. I'm not here to pressure you into doing anything that you don't want to do. So, um, you could think about it like, you know, first step is you watch your own tape and you give yourself your own kind of assessment. Then you are going to seek the resource that Mario offers and help hold yourself accountable for that process. And then maybe you can see how it feels and then perhaps reach out to see how the people that you're serving also, experience you as a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think you are such a self-aware person, but we all have blind spots.
Mhm.
And so you also might be very self-critical.
Mhm.
And I don't want you to make any assumptions about how you're doing. That may not be how others think you are doing.
Yeah.
So I, commend you for agreeing to take that next step to do that kind of more in-depth assessment, whether it's watching or listening while you're folding laundry,
Yeah.
whatever. Does that sound like a pathway that will support you in like achieving your goal of feeling more competent as a coach?
Yeah, I think that really just opens up a whole new way of approaching this work. That feels a lot more um like from the growth mindset perspective, because I think I was getting a little bit stuck in the fixed mindset about this. So yeah, I think the things I've committed to feel good.
Great.
So yeah.
Well,
Thanks.
I look forward to hearing all about the new insights that you're finding from that process.
Thank you.
I'm gonna keep the recording going. This was so good. That I'm about to say Dr. Edson. Maybe that's a sign. But no, I'm messing with you. But Sally, how did you feel about that coaching session?
Amazing. Humbled.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else came up for you?
Um, I mean, it was hard. I didn't make it up. I'm really struggling with it. It was very genuine. But I felt just I think just
Mhm,
supported and I felt cared for. So that was,
mhm, mhm.
yeah.
This was a really, really good coaching session. I'm gonna let everyone else speak as well and share and ask questions. This one was really good. This one was very clear in terms of where folks are on the coaching in the coaching framework. It was very, very clear. Probably one of the most clear. I thought one, I think it's really cool that this was something that came up because I think this is something that typically is an issue for all beginning coaches. I think Randy, you could almost attest to this. Like my coaches have been going so long. Like, what am I actually doing? The reality of it is that once you learn the rules, you break the rules to get back on them. So like part of it is, well, why am I going all the way out to hour 15? What is it that I want to actually correct versus compare myself right to other people? And what is that habit that I am creating right within me that is producing this feeling to want to compare myself to maybe what Coach Muriel is doing, right? In terms of you going rogue
Yeah.
I like that you said that, and just doing it. I think part of any type of learning, um, exactly what all three of the coaches kind of said too, is just going at it, right? And then watching the videos. I thought Dr. Kalia did a very, very good job at addressing the habit. I think that Randy did a great job of really kind of sifting out and allowing a reflection, which I mean, he does an excellent job of. It's like straight up reflection, which again, I will say this, that Eric I think it's a good, it's a, if you're doing reflection for a long time, that's totally fine. I never said it was a time limit, right? And I also said that sometimes in a coaching session, only get to, you may only get to just doing a reflection, right? So like that's a big thing. I think oftentimes some people underestimate how important reflection is. So I think that was great. Where Randy took a good amount of time to just allow you to just do it. Dr. Kalia brought up the habit, and I thought April did a wonderful job at providing tools to support you as you move forward and think about this journey. This was great, right? I think like one of the pieces in terms of like feedback that which is very small from in a sense is I think focusing even more on the habit would have been great. I think that would have been great.
Focusing on what?
Because I think like that's your habit, right? Like this habit of, downing yourself. I love the question that Dr. Kalia asked about how you provide empathy to other people versus, yourself. And that was the aha moment for you, right?
Yep.
Well, why do you do that? And then she got to that, right? She got to that a little bit of why. But I think even going deeper would have been greater exploration. Any thoughts to that, Araceli, and then everybody else could chime in?
No, I think that really was, and that's why I said, I'm like, see, I'm experiencing the aha moment. I want that for my clients. I'm just not getting there every single time. So, but again,
How do you know that they're not experiencing their aha moment? Because you never asked them. That's your own perception. That may not be theirs.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think I'm waiting for like, the plot. Like it's in a movie. Like it's super
Climax, right?
Yeah. But no, that's a good point.
And I just wanted to endorse that by saying you named it yourself. You're looking for visual cues and very strong body language cues. So to Dr. Canada's point, sometimes you got to ask because body language isn't always what we think it is.
Yeah.
Like maybe those closing strategies. Has what I provided been helpful for you? What are some things that you need from me to better support you in the next session or something like that? Because that's a real quick self-check before you close out as well. That's just to me. That may not be accurate, but
yeah. Thank you.
I have a couple of really chatty clients. And I found that I had to really focus on reiterating what to expect during the session for them. So we could both keep we could keep ourselves kind of on the schedule, if you will. Like aside from just saying, I have a hard stop at noon, because that for some people, like they're time blind, so that's meaningless. But kind of talking through different points.
I'm time blind.
Yeah, like I get caught up.
Yeah.
And I don't use the timer that like you use in Zoom, but I might have to. Like I need to keep myself honest too. So I thought this was a great example of coaching probably for me.
I agree.
Thinking about.
Yeah. No, I thought all three powerhouses did great. Great. Like literally. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, just gratitude
That was,
to
yes.
Araceli for bringing something real, and then to be squatted up with all of y'all, like that was
Yeah.
beautiful just to see the sessions. I look forward to watching it too, because yeah,
Yeah.
it was a full movement.
Yes, it was. That's so good.
I just saw
All
my
right. So,
it beat red when Dr. Canada asked that question. It just turned beat red, and then my eyes started to tear up. I'm like, oh, well, that's the aha.